So we can't forget, though, that there was a reason that the child was engaging in tantrum behavior, right? They were communicating a need. They wanted something. So we have to teach them, okay, you can't get it through tantruming. Use a different color marker, why not? This is the appropriate way to get it. You can get it through, using your words. So I want. And then you can get the toy that way. Okay, so we still want to honor that they had a need that they were trying to communicate to us, and we want to give them that more appropriate way to get their need met. So we're going to teach what we call a replacement behavior. So we're replacing that inappropriate behavior with a more appropriate communication. So we need to figure out kind of what the appropriate version of that behavior would be. And it needs to not only serve the same function, right? We want to make sure if they were tantruming because it led to them getting the toy, then we want to make sure that the replacement behavior we're choosing also leads to the toy and not some other, payoff that they weren't really going for. And it needs to be a bigger, better, easier payoff. Because if it's easier for them to tantrum than it is to say, my turn, please. Maybe that's just asking a lot of the child at this stage. And maybe it's like, it's easier for me to do a 40-minute tantrum, actually. We want to make sure that we're choosing a behavior that's easier for the child. So maybe for that child, it's a gesture. We're working from there. Sometimes there was another communication attempt earlier in the interaction that we could have reinforced, and we just missed it. We just didn't for whatever reason. And keep an eye out for those opportunities. So here's an example. So it's bedtime routine, and Parker asks her father to read another book at bedtime. She points at the bookcase and goes, bah. Her father says, no, I'm tired, it's bedtime, let's, be done with books. And then Parker begins to cry and scream. Parker's father says, okay, we can read another book. Gosh, I didn't know you wanted it so bad. So in this example, the only way Parker could get her point across and communicate to her dad, I want another book, was to scream louder. He didn't hear her at that lower volume. So keep an eye out for those situations and see, was there another communicative attempt made earlier that I could have reinforced? Say the behavior was to get the teacher's attention. Did Johnny actually, tap me and I didn't turn to him because I was, busy with someone else, but could I have, reinforced that attempt? Said like, hey, I'll be right with you or something. Was there something earlier, more mild, that I could have reinforced? So specific replacement behaviors are going to be individualized for your student in your student's behavior intervention plan. So I'm not going to go into specific ones right now since they will be individualized, but I do want to revisit the ABC model because we previously talked about the ABC model in terms of understanding inappropriate behavior. And now I want to look at it in terms of teaching new skills effectively. So this is where all those additional ESDM strategies come in that look at increasing motivation to respond and initiations and generalization. And we'll get deeper into those techniques a little later. But I just want to talk about the model first so you can kind of understand it from this ABA perspective. So on the antecedent side, I'll give you a fresh ABC page. So on the antecedent side, we are looking at setting up the child for success. So that might be practicing first outside of behavior triggering situations. So if it's really hard for Sally to share toys with peers, maybe we practice with an adult first, right? A reliable adult who they'll give you a turn, which doesn't always happen with a peer. So we're going to contrive and set up opportunities to practice those replacement behaviors to ensure that the child's going to be or likely to be successful. And we will follow the child's lead, share control to create those opportunities. If they're motivated by bubbles, we're going to set up opportunity with bubbles and say that we're working on having them request help, so we might put the lid on the bubble really tight, set it right there and wait, and then prompt them to help, I can help you, that sort of thing. So following their lead, using the things that they're motivated to engage with and enjoy, and then gaining control of that reinforcer before you prompt. So turn taking is a great method for that. You know, if you're rolling a ball back and forth, and then you have the ball, so you say, ball, there's the ball, here it comes. That's a great way to kind of get control of that reinforcer, so you have something, a payoff for the child when they do the behavior that you want to see. Okay, and kind of more antecedent strategies to make teaching this skill effective is that you're going to start by gaining their attention. So this is a whole separate step that we often skip. Usually we just go straight to, do you need help? Do you need help? Versus, you know, getting down in their eye line. Maybe you need to put a hand on them, on their shoulder, or make a funny noise, or a big pause during a play activity. Something so that we have their attention, so that when we give the prompt, do you need help? We're sure that they can hear that. And then delivering a clear prompt. So using concise, you know, developmentally appropriate language to prompt the replacement behavior. So you can say, I need help. Or maybe if a child's a one-word learner, help. As opposed to, wow, it looks like you're having a tough time over there. You know, I'm over here. Do you want me to do that? Or so-and-so, you know, like too much words or questions. We want it to make a very clear, this is the response I'm expecting you to say. And then pause. Another big important step that we often skip is to pause. So we prompt the child, you need help. And we give them 3 seconds. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Count in your head. We never, hardly ever give children actually that much time to process and respond. And it gives them a chance to think about it, right? Before we kind of add more words that they need to filter through. So those are kind of all the antecedent side of things that we can do to make this teaching opportunity successful. And we'll get a bit deeper into successful learning opportunities a little later. And then for the behavior itself, we want them to be successful. So if that means that you prompt again, you prompt again. Whatever we can do to kind of get the correct response out. Maybe help is too hard, so maybe, you know, you do the sign of whatever is appropriate for that child. And then on the consequence side, reinforce. It sounds like so straightforward. But it often gets missed. It's once a child uses a skill, we need to give them immediate, within 3 seconds, access to the reinforcer. And then you also recast the skill. So help, I can help you. Wow. So that payoff, it needs to be bigger and better than whatever they were getting for engaging in that appropriate behavior before. And kind of where this gets a little missed is kind of that example I gave earlier of the little girl asking for book. You know, she said buh, and she didn't get reinforced. She pointed and said buh and didn't get reinforced. So making sure that, yeah, I'll read you a book comes after that, not the crying, screaming, okay, I'll read you a book. So kind of moving that a little earlier in the interaction.